This is Ed. Welcome back. And as you could see, today's show focuses in on global HR business, global business methodology, practices, and talent, mobile, remote, in office. Um, we're going to be talking with Mr. Philip Berry, longtime friend and colleague, if you will, in this world. We first met in 1999
Yeah.
when Philip was global HR vice president with Colgate-Palmolive Corporation based in Paris. And I produced a live meeting, and Philip was a keynoter. And since then, he's become more of an advisor and good friend over the years. And really honored to have this man talk about this exciting topic today about having to do with branding, professional branding, personal branding, with a Latin America focus today. Of course, it's universal, but he's going to focus in on the special nature of business people within Latin America today, and going back in years, of course, and has it changed? He's going to tell us. And uh, we're recording this for worldwide free access across the YouTube channel and across LinkedIn networking, and of course, Global Business News Network, and literally will approach 1 million potential audience. And we're going to welcome right now from Mexico City, Rigoberto, and he's going to join this broadcast, and we welcome him. And as you see, Philip is here and waiting very gently to begin his excellent presentation. Hello, hola, Rigo.
Hola.
Yeah, and you know Philip Berry.
Yes, I
Yeah,
know.
yeah, okay.
Here we go.
All
Good
right,
job.
we're
¿Qué tal?
just in time, and we're going to begin. So, how are things in Mexico City?
Things going well, starting the year. No surprises, no big surprises so far. So yeah, we are doing good.
Yeah, okay, great. Okay, so the Philip Berry and I, as I said, have known each other a number of years. He has spoken uh, uh, at many of our meetings in person and, of course, video. And this meeting is being recorded, as you could see. We have people in the background. Hello, welcome, hola.
Hello, hello.
Hi, thank you for coming. I am Ed, and this is your first time on our show. So I'd like you to say hello and introduce yourself. What is your name and what is where do you live? What do you do?
Yeah, perfect. Nice to meet you, Edwin. Hello, all. My name is Vanessa. I'm from São Paulo, Brazil. Has recently joined Premier DS as the supply chain operational supervisor for Brazil. Very happy to be here.
Thank you very much. This is Philip Berry, who's going to be our keynoter in just a couple of minutes, and he's going to be talking about branding and how is it different in Latin America? Is it different than here in California or in Mexico City or in New York or Miami? What's the difference, if any? And the branding, he's much better at this than I am, but the branding is going to take two levels: professional brand, which is, of course, the corporate, the product, the culture, the methodology, the vibe, and
Yeah.
personal brand and personal branding. And what's the difference? This question, Philip will answer. Uh, Personal branding, like my personal brand, well, I like blue shirts, and it sort of goes with the background. And the microphone means that, hey, we're recording, and so the whole world will see this show tomorrow. And so be careful what you think. It's okay, but don't voice it if, if there's some issues, because the world will see this. And so the idea now is to learn from an expert about branding and your views and what you do in your work life and what your personal brand is. After you understand what Philip is going to present. And we have a wonderful video display here. Philip, welcome.
Good. Hi, thank you so much, and also bienvenidos to Rigoberto and Vanessa. Really glad to see both of you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen and then talk about this topic in a way that will make some sense.
Oh, definitely. So Philip, for many years, was with Colgate-Palmolive, and prior to that, with other large organizations. Not to be religious about it, but Procter and Gamble to Philip is Procter and God, and he'll tell us a little bit about that branding way back then. He's also techie in the olden days with IBM, and but Colgate-Palmolive, he was involved at the very top level, uh, dealing with people and operations and enabling people to thrive. Philip,
No,
well,
thank you very much. Yes, in fact, in one of my positions, matter of fact, when I was at Procter and Gamble, I did a lot of work throughout Latam. Yeah, and then when I was at Colgate-Palmolive, I was VP of HR for different international divisions, Latam being one of them. You know, also Europe, lived over in Europe for a while, and Paris, and when I had all of Europe, and then also had Asia and Africa and the Middle East. But one of the things that I want to talk about and why this topic is so important is that when we approach this year, 2025, a number of people are trying to determine what they're going to do, how they're going to do it, how do they renew themselves. They begin to dust off old plans and begin to look at things in a way, hopefully a new way. But what I want to do is to talk about not how you look at old plans, but I want to talk about how you renew the plans and the mission that you want to have. And I want to address this from the standpoint of three factors, and that is that how does one thrive in 2025? It's one thing just to approach the year and to say, oh, it's a new year. So what do we do? And I can't tell you how many people are thinking about this. They're trying to examine what it is that they should focus on differently. Uh, However, when you think about change, they are able to see different aspects of change all around them. What you want to also do is to think about how you change yourself and how are you able to change the proposition and what you bring to an organization, to any organization. And that's what we mean when we talk about personal branding. And I want to talk about this in three ways. And I want you to walk away from this discussion with insight into three strategies that you would focus on. That is, how do you clarify your new vision and purpose, your why? A number of people, they're in an organization, but they don't always know why. they're, they're thinking about, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? And it's so important. Some people think about new clothes. They begin to think about diets. Those are fine. That's the external piece. But I want to talk about how you begin to clarify the new why, and from the standpoint of your internal proposition. And that's what we talk about when we say aligning your personal brand to the new you. And then I want to talk about the areas, the three strategies, three aspects of the strategy that will sustain your new brand with your new vision, and that is your distinctive competence, your values, and also behaviors. So that's what you're going to walk away from. And then at the end, I have an action step that each and every one of you can begin to take. So that way, what we're talking about is not just philosophical, but it's something that you'll be able to action with your teams, with people who work for you, that people that you work with, and others that are really concerned about what your direction. So the most important thing I've seen with individuals is that all individuals at the beginning of the year, they begin to say, well, how are we going to make a difference in our work, the work that we're doing, the tasks that we're involved in, with the businesses in our lives, and also with the teams of people that we're working with. And what's so interesting about that is that one has to look at all of these different facets of our persona in order to get clarity, excuse me, on what we're going to do and how we're going to go about this approach. And that's why we begin to say at the beginning of the year, there's a point in our work, whatever work is, where we say, well, are we getting the type of impact that we want to get? And how is that impact really aligned with the intentions that we have? A number of people, they're involved in all type of activities, but they don't really think about whether they're making an impact where they are. They don't examine that. They don't begin to decide what is the impact that I'm going to make and what is that going to be based on. And I'm going to talk about 3 factors that help you to determine what your impact is going to be as you design your new vision, your personal brand, and also your distinctive competencies and values. I'm going to weave those thoughts through everything that I'm doing, so that way you'll be able to walk away with those. And also you'll walk away with one other prize that I have for you at the end when you say, okay, how do we put all of this together in a package? And I'll talk about that also. So can we instill more passion and purpose and meaning in interactions that we have? The most important piece that individuals, when I have been working with people and leaders, individuals who are aspiring to leaders, is that they are saying, well, I don't know how I can be passionate about this. I don't know how I can get meaning and purpose out of it. And you probably will see this in the persona of people that you're working with, or even that you might be working for. There's no passion and there's no purpose, there's no meaning to it. And so people are approaching this new year saying, how can we get all 3 of those in a package that's going to help us to be much stronger and more effective? One of the things that's especially key is that when individuals think about what made them successful, what made you successful in 2024 or before is not going to keep you going forever. And that's the key identifier between an individual who is going to be just an individual contributor or who is going to be a leader in some ways. How do you begin to examine what it means to be a leader? And you can't just look at yesterday. You can't look at what got you to where you are. That's good, but it's not going to carry you forever. And that's why you need to think of new things. There's change that is going on with your products, with your markets, with your competition, with the individuals who are working for you. All of those things represent a constant picture of change that is coming before you, and then saying to you, what do you do as a result of all of that change, and how do you begin to grab a hold of it yourself to say how you're going to make a difference? And what we begin to do is to say, well, let's change the trajectory. So that way we have a new you, because what worked before was very good. It got me to where I am, but it's not going to get me to where I need to be. I do right now in my career, I do a lot of executive and leadership coaching. And one of the things that I find with this leadership coaching is that leaders, whether they are lawyers, whether they're doctors, whether they happen to be top engineers, whether they're PhDs, and I'm working with all of those different personalities, and they begin to reflect upon the fact that all of the competencies and everything that I have is a result of maybe the school that I went to, the 6 or 7 positions that I was in before, the 5 or 6 companies that I worked for, but that is not enough. And in fact, you have to have more. You can't just rest upon your laurels. 2025, the one thing people have to understand is that in order to thrive in 2025, you have to renew yourself in a way that you didn't have in place before. And so that's what we mean by branding, rebranding, and being better than you believe in order to make that new brand come into play. This is in fact based on a book that I have, which I'll show you at the end, which is called Being Better Than You Believe, 8 Steps to Ultimate Success, where we talk about all of those factors that you need to focus on in order to make yourself renew within the context of the new person that you want to be. And branding is really not, some people say, well, the first thing they do, you've probably seen this, people say, "Oh, I'm going to brand. Let me get new colors in my logo. Let me get some new initials that are set up in the way I'm advertising myself. Um, Maybe let me have a new suit, new dress, or whatever." And they say, "Well, I'm beginning to brand myself with that." Well, those are part of the pieces that you need to think about, but branding is really it's not about the slick advertising. It's the strategic essence of your DNA. And so when you think about branding, you want to think about it from the standpoint of your identity, your purpose, your direction. It's your raison d'etre, and it clarifies who you are and who you are not. And it defines what you will do and what you will not do. And so I've worked with a number of people who are leaders and who have gotten to a point where they say, well, I now have been promoted to this particular job. I'm at the company that I'm loving, and that's good. And then they say, well, what else is there? How are they defining themselves? I can't tell you. And as I was doing a lot of work that I was doing and throughout Latam, working, everywhere from Uruguay, Chile, Brazil, all the way up to Costa Rica and El Salvador, Guatemala, people who were and everything in between, including the Caribbean. I had HR people and organizations reporting to me in each of those countries. And so I spent quite a bit of time there. And individuals can be in that country and then they can say, well, I am the marketing director for Venezuela. Well, that's good. However, as they begin to think about themselves, is that all that they can do? Is there more that they can do? Can they define themselves so that they can be maybe the marketing director for all of Latam or all of that region? The other thing is, many people say, well, I'm going to define myself by moving to another company. Well, yeah, that's okay. However, is there a way to look at where the grass is now and to begin to redefine yourself within the context of the career that you have? And so one of the things that I did quite a bit of is to say to people, well, you happen to be very strong maybe in Venezuela or maybe in Mexico. Can you be a global resource? Can you be an individual who can move to another country in the world? So that way you can be recognized in a way that's different than the way you were before. And I spent a lot of bit of time working with people on their individual development plans. So that way they could be seeing if they were the big fish where they were, how can you also be a big fish in another part of the world? How can you move from Peru, or to Ecuador? And matter of fact, this is a real example. Moving from Peru or Ecuador over to Poland, so that way in Eastern Europe, when the Berlin Wall came down, you could be an expert in that particular region. Or I was working with an individual, a female, who was in Colombia, and we said, well, with these characteristics that you have, is there a way that you could move to China, to some part of China? What are the competencies that you have? What is the distinction that you have? Or are you going to just be seen as an individual who is only local? How do you move from local to global is the question. And wherever that local might be, how can I move from being just a marketing person to a commercial person? How can I move from being just an HR person who is very expert in compensation to one also who is very strong in labor relations or organizational development or in training and development? How can I begin to expand the scope of who I am and my brand so that way it means more to me in 2025 than it did before? That's what new branding does. That's what rebranding does. Let me continue on that. Most of the time, individuals are seeing, and they look at their brand, it's really the set of associations or attributes that other people will have of you. Yeah, and so, but what happened, that's only half of the formula. What needs to happen is that one needs to be more self-determining and intentional about recognizing their aspirations, their goals, their visions. That's what the total story is. The total story is not just what other people see and who they see of you, but what you see also and how you complete the picture so that way you have something from a total systems perspective that is going to provide the catalyst for you to be impactful as you look at what you're doing. I
That
always
is
say,
perfect. That is really perfect.
yes,
Thank you.
no, thank you for that. And so do others see you the way you see yourself? I mean, are you seeing yourself in one way, or do you also see it set up so that way there are other ways that people can see you in differently? In fact, a little test that I always give people, I'll tell people, think of the 3 words that you would use to describe yourself, just 3 words. And matter of fact, each of you ought to do this. Think of 3 words and write it on a post-it. Yeah, and then ask another person the 3 words that they think of when they think of you. And then see if there's any similarity. What's the total picture? Is there something that they said that really defines you better? Is there something that you said about yourself that they didn't say? Or if you see yourself, let me give you a specific example. You might see yourself as a good communicator. Well, communication is consists of not only you talking, you communicating in different ways, but also it consists of being a good listener. I worked with the CEO one time, and my job with this new CEO, because he succeeded somebody who was a great communicator, great oral skills, could magnify any type of an audience or shareholders. But what this person did was to set up a framework so that way he was a good listener. And therefore, because of the listening skills, he became more empathetic and people understood him more. So to see how a word that you could describe yourself in one way, saying you're a good communicator, but that's not all there is, because as a matter of fact, that's not sufficient enough when you think about what your new brand would be. That's what you want to think about. So what makes you distinctive and what makes you unique is really where you want to focus. You want to think about that deeply and think about it more expansively than you have before. As you look into thriving in 2025, think about what the new you is and what is your unique and distinctive competence. And again, coming back to the 3 areas that are going to represent the portfolio that you look at, your vision, your distinctive competence, and also values that sustain new behaviors. It's not just a matter of having beliefs, but do you have beliefs that are able to promote a different set of behaviors and get people to react to you differently than they were before? That's what you want to do, and that's how you begin to thrive in 2025. Rebranding gives you a tremendous opportunity to highlight the new you. You cannot go into 2025 as you sit through this presentation that Ed has put before you. If you go into the rest of the year being seen as the same person as you was before, and you haven't succeeded at all in taking advantage of what the new year has for you. You might as well just have stayed in 2024 because 2025 is not doing anything different for you. How can you bring something different? And the way you also do it, we rebrand. The second factor that's important is expanding and taking advantage of the new market, the consumers, the customer base, what align it to the business. You have to make sure that you are working within the context of the business that you are involved in or the business that you want to be involved in, because the business that you're involved in can be different. You might decide that there's new customers, there are new people that you want to focus on that you didn't focus on before. You might decide if you're working in one region of the country or one region of the world, you want to expand to a whole different part of the region, the whole different aspect of it that will help you to identify new customers. and new opportunities help you to identify new marketplace. The other thing, we rebrand when we want to take advantage of new and emerging trends. How many times have you been hearing so far in 2024 that people are saying AI is taking over my job? Well, I worked at IBM and also digital equipment for a little period of time. And that was where I began to develop my technical chops. And one of the things that I found in working for those companies is that technology is always beginning to introduce new ways of looking at things. In fact, what I'm looking at now, if I look at this device here, I would do everything that was in that device in a whole big room in terms of how I would put together information, how I would store information, how I would communicate. What is it going to be tomorrow? And that's why AI is so important. AI doesn't take away your job, it expands your job. It expands it because you're beginning to take advantage of new information in a way that you didn't do before. You're beginning to ignite yourself and the people that you work with a whole new motif regarding how they look at problems, how they look at solutions, and how you are able to organize yourself around that. That's why you want to take a look at new branding in that way. Don't be afraid of AI. Let AI be your friend. Let it be, in fact, do you know that there are jobs now working with my son on something? My son, he is an investment banker, and he has individuals who are AI assistants whose job solely is to bring together information in very different ways in different parts of the world. So that way we have new insights that we didn't have before regarding what we're doing. Those insights will cause you to look at your business framework in a way that you didn't before. Let me begin to close with these few pieces as I think about where we're going. And that is that you have a life script. Your life script was able to move you to where you are now. Well, what's the new story? If you have a book that is being written about you, what is the new story about your who you are? And can you begin to excite people with the new you based on the new story that you're going to provide? And let that story be the story, not that somebody else is writing about you. Let it be your own story. And look at this year as January as a significant life event that begins to help you to reframe the way you are looking at yourself and the way you are looking at the world. Okay, how do you put this together? Well, you put this together by creating what I call opportunities for success. You don't put it together by waiting for somebody to come to you and tell you this is what you're supposed to do and this is the nice prize that I have for you. You want to be a creator of your life story and also an innovator in your life where in terms of what you want to do. You create opportunities for success by communicating differently than you were before and connecting in a very different way. So if you happen to be on TikTok and Instagram, and if you have be on whatever, LinkedIn and Facebook, think of a way that you communicate where instead of just being a person who is a viewer, a voyeur, if all of the other people who are putting stuff there, why don't you create something so that way they can begin to see that you are asking questions about something. Ask a question. Start a conversation with people. You don't have to know the answer to this, but just ask somebody, can you elaborate a little bit more on that particular point? That begins automatically to get them to see you in a different framework. You're not just a voyeur, you're a person who also is a giving person. And then connect with them in a different way than you have before. Think of people that you want to connect with. Think of 5 people that you want to connect with that you didn't connect with before. And think about it in this framework. Think about it from the standpoint of your network. Networking has to do with developing and maintaining a mutually beneficial relationship. and making that a new way of living and how you're going to work. And what you want to do after a while, as I move to the final piece that I'm going to talk about, is this. You want to develop your own personal board of directors, which is the embodiment of your network. I always say, why should CEOs have all the fun? Be the CEO of your own life. Be the CEO of the person who is going to navigate this particular ship, which is called your ship, your cruise. I love cruising, by the way. And when you're thinking about your own cruise and where you want to go, you are the captain of that boat. You are the one that is going to determine how that's going to work with, how you're going to work with, and what you're going to do, and the new directions that you're going to go in. When you think about, well, how am I going to do? How am I going to make that happen? Well, you make it happen because every one of us, we're 6 degrees separation from everyone in the world. In fact, I always like to do a test where I'll ask people and I'll say, well, am I 1 or 2 degrees of separation or 3 degrees of separation? How many degrees of separation am I? When I think about the fact that I know Ed Cohen, who I've known for 26 years, and Ed has connections in Sweden, and he has people in Latin America, and I do too. I've been through. I have worked in 60 countries around the world. Think about this, and deeply, not just travel, deeply in there, because I had people working for me in all of those countries, and so therefore, now that you have me, you are just 3 degrees of separation from anybody in Russia, South America, not just Uruguay, Chile, wherever it is. So you have already, just by virtue of your connection with me, and I hope you take advantage of that by connecting with me on LinkedIn, you are going to see how it connects you. It opens up the portfolio of your travel to a lot of other people. Begin that by looking at this piece here, which is my book, which has very specific tasks and activities in it. I'm not selling this book. What I'm doing is I'm selling a lifestyle here and information. You can get this on Amazon. You can get it everywhere, Barnes and Noble, wherever. And matter of fact, you can look at it and you can see the reviews on it, and you can see how individuals have taken some of these tasks and activities, these strategies, because I have detailed strategies here. I like to give it away, so that way you begin to see what are things that you could focus on next. So, Ed, that represents everything I have to say, and Roberto and Rigoberto. I think I have 5 more minutes left. If you have a question, I could take it before I leave, but that's all I have to say here.
Well, it's really been a tour de force, and I really appreciate all this wisdom and this practical stuff on this recording. This recording will be sent to my network, which is rather extensive, and uh, Rigo and Vanessa, I welcome you to resend this program that I will send to you, to your own company affiliations, because as you could tell, it's first class stuff. And I'll tell you, I'm moving into a subscription basis. Now, I'm not asking you guys to spend money here. I just want to tell you that I'm changing what I've been doing, just selling registrations, which is a toll gate, which means you can't watch this thing unless you pay me something. No, I don't do that. I want to make it free. And I will find subscribers to the whole show thing that I do day in, day out. And I make it available through LinkedIn and Facebook and my YouTube channel free. And so my job is PR, in other words, showing the world what Philip has just done. So please ask Philip a question. Any question, Rigo?
Or any comment?
I have a comment, actually, not a question. I love the presentation. Thank you. A lot of knowledge in half hour. I couldn't believe this is possible. But I agree a lot with what you spoke. I believe rebranding our personal brand as leaders is not just about refining how others see us, but also about aligning it with our evolving values and goals. And it's an ongoing process, you know, for this entire year, for example, that requires self-awareness, for example. I love it. I really love the presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Rigo?
Obrigado.
Nothing to add, just to let Philip know that it was very interesting the way he explained us the branding, and definitely this aligns with this new year and the new goals that we are all setting for ourselves and for our companies or for our projects. So thank you, Philip, for sharing this, and hopefully we can collaborate later on.
Yeah, I look forward to Augusto with me and please connect with me and any other questions or comments that any of you have. I'm only touch away. Take care, everybody. And Ed,
Uh,
I'm going to go to another session that
Thank
I
you.
have to go. But thank you very much, everybody. Take care.
Thanks for being on the show. Come back again. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you guys. If you'd like to stay and discuss anything, or shall we just close it for now? I'm very happy to do that. So, Vanessa, thank you so much. I love what your company is doing, and please give my regards to Norm and to Rita and others. That's just great. Rigo, thank you for being on the show again. And let's discuss the next production and come back and maybe suggest someone who I should reach out to and invite. If you could introduce me to somebody, and then I'll be glad to do that. So thanks very much for being on the show. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye.